Need a bigger couch for
Yeah,
guests.
yeah. I don't understand. I'm sorry.
I'm curious about your bank secrecy laws here.
Wait. Yes. Excusez-moi, Jordan. Swiss custom requires 10 minutes of blah, blah, blah.
Chit-chat.
Yeah, chit-chat, thank you, before business can be discussed.
In the practice of negotiations, there is the concept of psychological capture. It is used not only in some serious or problematic negotiations, but also in everyday human communication. Contrary to popular belief, we are trying to achieve something for ourselves in any conversation, with any communication. Most often, this is an attempt to position oneself rather high and profitably in this world.
Then play him that way. Give me your black slaver. That of a big money buyer from Düsseldorf here in Greenville to buy my way into the Mandingo fight game. And your character is a Mandingo expert I hired to help me do it.
They call it one-eyed Charlie.
Bonjour.
Why do you want to get in the Mandingo business?
You don't intend to allow your second to make the proper introductions?
Quit stalling now. Answer the question. What makes you such a Mandingo expert?
I'm curious what makes you so curious.
Seeing as you won't pay a penny for this pickaninny here. You won't mind me handling this nigga any way I see fit.
He's your nigga.
Stone Cipher? That Marsha and the bitches send D'Artagnan to nigga heaven.
Let's get to it. Because as of now, if he's an example, I ain't impressed.
Them motherfuckers ain't here to buy no mandingos. They wants that girl.
Sit your ass in that
Lay your hand flat on that table.
Shut your mouth.
You really want me to shake your hand? I insist.
If you insist.
When you criticize someone and thinking that you are giving a negative assessment to your interlocutor, but, in reality, criticism is only a tool for self-exaltation. You are talking about someone badly in order to emphasize how good you yourself are. So, no matter what the conversations and negotiations are, you always want to look good. You always want to achieve your own, albeit insignificant, maybe not conscious goals. But you always want to do this, and a person is strong and smart, while the conversation is predictable for him. And we are preparing for communication, especially if the subject of communication is some serious one, well, for example, about money. When you borrowed money and do not want to return the debt, and then a collector appears, or a person similar to him, and wants to force you to do the right thing. That is, to give money that you do not have. Or, you pretend you don't have them? In general, you are preparing for this conversation, and you create in your head a certain scenario, according to which, most likely, this conversation will take place. You are preparing for the nuances of this conversation, that is, you are working, conducting some preparation in order to achieve, for example, installments, or forgiveness of your debt. But, if your scenario is broken, if this communication goes according to a completely different scenario, then you will not be ready for it. You will be disoriented. My task, as a professional negotiator, and your task as an ordinary negotiator, is to destroy the scenario, the training, that your opponents have. They need to be taken out of the zone of psychological comfort, and made to doubt, be surprised, and put them in a position of bewilderment. There are different ways to do this. I will talk about some of the possibilities now. Firstly, a pattern interrupt can be created by starting a conversation, not at all on the topic on which it is supposed. Let's take a vivid example with debt obligations again. Suppose you are talking to a debtor. You need to collect this money out of it, or at least get some acquittance, a payment schedule, and so on. This is difficult to do, and there is no need to rush into such a matter. Usually, they begin to threaten. For example, they say that they will insert a hot soldering iron in the ass of the debtor and rotate it up 5 times. Such threats do not work. And the reason is not that it is not legal. Any specifics do not scare a person, because they transfer him to the zone of rational perception of the world from emotional perception. After all, the debtor immediately begins to think logically how to avoid this. To think, no worry. But in this case, the collector will lose. Our task is create a state of emotional instability for person when he is afraid of uncertainty. It is fear that is the trigger for solving the problem. When a person is scared, uncomfortable, he does not understand what is going on, then he is likely to agree with your arguments. So, it makes no sense to intimidate. You can do the opposite. For example, you start talking with the debtor about fishing. He replies that he sometimes goes fishing, but what does this have to do with talking about debt? The collector will answer that he is also a fisherman, and will asking, is the debtor has a boat, and what gear for fishing? And what is the biggest fish caught? Mine was 60 pounds. And what spinners do you use? And so on. The debtor does not understand what is going on. Do you understand what I'm leading to? Yes, this is a pattern interrupt. That is, the destruction of the scenario that a person originally planned for himself. He is perplexed, he is disoriented, because he expected a completely different conversation, in a different tone, when they will press him, be indignant, when the formidable collector will make an evil face with eyes that sparkle with fire. But here the conversation is on a completely different topic, and friendly, as if we are really bosom friends. To make the conversation look like two old friends are talking about their favorite topic. So that there isn't even a hint to start a conversation on a topic for which they really met. And the further the conversation goes, the more perplexity arises for the debtor. He has a feeling that the very subject of the conversation about debt is insignificant for the one who is talking to him now. This is a big plus, because if you show your opponent a high interest in what you want, it reveals your weakness. And vice versa, when you are careless, when you show with all your appearance that this debt is such a trifle, it is such nonsense, that it costs nothing to me. I just looked here, in passing, to remind you of the instinct of self-preservation, which cannot be ignored if you want to live a long time. In fact, this is such an insignificant event in my life that there's nothing to even talking about it. It's much more interesting for me to talk about fishing than about some other things. The more you are serious about talking, the more you lose credibility in the eyes of the other person. And if you do not attach importance to either the conversation or the interlocutor, then you position yourself highly. The more careless you are, the higher and higher you rise above your interlocutor. What is our stereotype of perception of such communication? A person who wants something from you is very interested, tense, focused, selects words. Yes, he is logical, he is consistent, he is trying to prove something to you. And talking about fishing does not imply any of this. About fishing or hunting, and so on, it doesn't matter. It is, for example, if your opinion, and the whole conversation as a whole, do not lead the opponent to the realization of his expectations, then this will disorient him. This is a psychological aperture that is a pattern interrupt. This is a breaking of a person's expectations, which introduces him beyond the zone of psychological comfort, and he begins to get lost. Secondly, there are many different tricks that can be used in negotiations, and some of them are even funny. However, it worked very well. For example, you communicate with an opponent. There is a paper and a pencil in front of you. You are speaking little, and prefer to listening to your opponent. Let him talk a lot, and ask suggestive questions. When he speaks, after almost every phrase, you silently make a note in your paper, with some kind of conditional sign. Well, for example, the opponent pronounces the phrase, and you write a plus sign on your paper, without drawing his attention to what you are doing. He will notice it anyway. We want this. Then, you ask him the following question, and, after the answer, you put a circle or a check mark. And, you continue to communicate with him, in this mode. Is it too late? He will see it, and the question naturally arises. What are you doing? In this case, the Russian glass rule works. This rule sounds like this: The logical understanding of what the other is doing is inversely proportional to your emotions about this. This means that the less you understand about person, the more you worry. In our example, just this rule works. The opponent does not understand anything at all. He simply realizes that he is being watched in a special way. And, since rational understanding is not enough, the proportion of emotions increases. The opponent begins to worry, as another person constantly makes notes regarding his words. The opponent is constantly focused on these actions. His thoughts go astray, so a person cannot simultaneously feeling and think logically. The more you worry, the worse the brain works, the harder it is to think. The opponent must be translated into a sensory perception of the world, not a logical one. For this you draw these check marks. Your opponent may ask you, "What do you do when I'm talking?" And you tell him a lie, for example, that you have a stupid habit of drawing something during a conversation. The opponent will understand that you lied to him, but there is some kind of answer, and you need to continue the conversation. After some time, a person is making significant efforts to maintain the line of behavior that he originally wanted to adhere to. There is a more complex, requiring good preparation, method of psychological capture through empathic adjustment to the opponent. Omitting the details, I'll just say that those who watch my videos and are familiar with my work know what it is. And who does not look, I will explain in one sentence. During a conversation, look at yourself through the eyes of your opponent. My task is instilling in your soul to become you. I need to feeling what you feeling is necessary, a focus of attention to switch from yourself, beloved, to another person. This should be done from the heart, so that I really have the impression that I am talking to myself with your lips, and looking at myself with your eyes.
Craig, I don't understand. There's no such thing as a hole or a portal into somebody's brain.
Yes, there is. You know, a brain or a soul or whatever. I was inside John Malkovich looking out.
Really?
Yep.
I want to try it then.
Pardon me?
I want to be John Malkovich.
Mm-hmm.
Wet? Weird. That's nice. Oh. 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 Being inside did something to me. I knew who I was. It's like everything made sense, you know. I knew who I was.
But you weren't you. You were John Malkovich.
I was, wasn't I? I was John Malkovich. I was John fucking Malkovich. Take it back, Craig.
We're late for Lester.
That portal is mine, and it must be sealed forever for the love of God.
But, Mr. Malkovich, sir, with all due respect, I discovered that portal. I mean, it's my livelihood, do you understand?
It's my head, Schwartz. It's my head! I will see you in court.
What makes you think I won't be seeing what you're seeing in court?
I figured out how to hang on as long as I want. It's all a matter of making friends with the Malkovich body, rather than thinking of it as an enemy that has to be pounded into submission. I began imagining it as a really expensive suit that I enjoy wearing. Sort of like puppeteering. You know, I like that about it.
Exactly. And no one would ever even have to know it's not him.
And I could use Malkovich's existing notoriety to launch my own puppeteering career.
Oh, Craigie, that's brilliant. Oh.
It's such a sharing. This kind of adjustment creates the so-called rapport, that is, deep contact between people. I am, in a sense, will become you. And I pass on to you my condition, what I myself feel. I can create the desired state, for example, a state of breaking. By giving you this state, I am transferring you to a state in which it is difficult to think. Because, in the breaking mode, thoughts get confused. In order to think in this mode, you need a habit, but you don't have it. I can adjust empathetically during the conversation. You will not know and understand what I did. After all, I did not tell you about this. As a result, for unknown reasons, you begin to understand and formulate poorly and can't understand what's the matter. But the fact is that I'm already inside you, in your head. I have set my own order, and you are not in a comfortable mode for yourself, in which you usually fall asleep rather than think. It's hard for you to negotiate. In addition, you begin to feel this obsession. You do not understand anything, but you feel that I have done something with you. This starts to bother you. The glass rule is triggered again. The longer this takes place, the more you have a desire to stop these negotiations and accept what is being offered to you. So, I told you a little about some of the possibilities in order to become more effective in any communication, from blah 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 to serious problematic negotiations. This topic, and many others, are discussed on my pages in social networks. Links are available in the description for this video.
Проблемными серьезными переговорами.